Hello and welcome. I would like to show you all the possibilities you have using real-time technology to use for your design studies and of course for your color, material and finish studies. So I think one of the most important part to show is definitely how we can utilize um, real-time technology where you have an instant feedback and how to use that as an interior designer to make sure that you have different color, different material and finish options available, and that you can, for instance, in this example, create in a relative very fast time your own personal design work. So let's get started. As you can see, that is I would call it digital mock-up place. This is your digital garage where you have a model that is already designed and signed off, and your job is basically to create really cool materials and on top of it also, create your own design choices so that you can be really proud of it, and of course your client will freak out and says like, this is so amazing, this is exactly what I would like to have. So let's get started because I would like to show you how simple that can be done. So first of all, you can see when you have your 3D file here ready to go, you can find then materials. And those materials on the left side have specific containers or categories where you can see you have plastic, metal, fabrics, and so on. And let's say you have, of course, presets of materials that was created. Like here, for instance, there is a fabric material. This seems like a red carpet. Then you can go in and just drag and drop it to the floor. So this would be the first basic start. Then, of course, it's all about the seat. And the question that comes up is like, okay, what can I do? How can I choose specific materials? And what you can see here on the bottom is nothing else than material examples. And whatever, this is a cotton shirt printed with stripes, and you can take that and just drag and drop it and assign it to your seat. You can also see the nice fabric in a close-up. Now, one of the biggest issues for interior designer is, of course, like changing the color. Color corrections, I think, is very, very important. But not just that, it's also important that you have then full options and features where you can change the tiling of a specific pattern. What if you want to change, the scaling of the pattern and so on. So for this particular case, I created, of course, all these options. You might be familiar from Illustrator, but definitely you might be familiar from Adobe Photoshop, where you can go in and, in this particular case, you can also do a full hue shift. So saying you created a material first, but you aren't really happy with the colors, and you change your mind while you're designing and you say like, oh, the blue doesn't really fit to my red carpet. Well, then you can go in and, of course, apply overall a complete hue shift, right? Like from Photoshop. But you might also say, you know what, the saturation, this is so strong, you just change the saturation. That means overall you can desaturate it, and you can also make here a full saturation. You can make all these adjustments. Furthermore, you could also say like, these blue stripes, or I would almost say like purple stripes here. I would like to change that as well. Isn't there an option? And then you could also change, of course, the different colors, the color channels itself, and say like, sure, I go in, and as you can see here, I just pick, for instance, here the green channels, and then I do the same thing. I can change the colors here, but I can also change the saturation. I can make it super saturated. I can desaturate them, but I can also make them darker or brighter. So you have Even so, there are options to change specific color information within the pattern, and then you go in and make those adjustments until you're happy. And then you can say, perhaps like in this case, I go more like with a color that fits or matches, maybe more like my carpet. Of course, you can do the same with the carpet itself. That means, you select the carpet material, and then within the carpet, you can also say like, okay, I go more desaturated, but you can also crank up the saturation and go like super vibrant, right? So I go, for instance, here a little bit more desaturated, and you would have here, for example, like one design element for the seat from this specific fabric. But we are not even finished yet, because of course I think what's very important for every designer is also that you say yes, 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 but hold on, I would like to change now, of course, the tiling itself from my pattern. So, right, if you created like here a seat, it would be very interesting to see like, what if I go like super detailed, or like if I increase this and make this pattern very, very large. So you also have these options. The other options you also have is like, what if the UVs or the fabric with the stitches you see on the seat, you would like to rotate. You say like, I changed my mind, I don't want this vertical or horizontal, I just want to change it. Also not a big deal, because even that is considered in the material, where you can go in and just rotate this to your likings. Even so, you could also go in and change even for each object, for each part, basically the alignment, if you would like to have this horizontal or if you would like to have it vertical. So as you can see, the options and the feedback in real time is instant, and you can make all those changes, while you are crafting your design. Now, furthermore, what I would like to show is, I think why this is really super cool, is you can now go in and make those changes on the fabrics, but you have, of course, many other options. As you can see, you have here metal options, and then you can say, sure, I would like to see the bottom here maybe in polished chrome, and then you just assign and apply these materials. And as you do that, you can see you have various different materials. You have pure chrome that is a little bit darker, you have brighter chrome, you have high polished chrome, you have aluminum. You can put in like all different kinds of patterns. You can of course also go like gold with patterns on top of it. So the options are like infinitive. Now these materials, what you can see here, they are basically pre-made, and there are hundreds or even thousands of materials you can choose from and pick whatever you like. It's, every designer has his own preferences. Some designers like to work with presets at the beginning. On the other side, they say, nope, I want to design everything from scratch as I like it. Another option here, for instance, let's say you would like to see immediately, instantly, the second seat with the new design started. And you say like, you know what, this time I don't want to have a fabric, I start with a leather. And there is a leather material that also has a nice pattern on top of it. And as you can see, of course, like that color might be something where you say, whoa, that's pretty intense. So not a problem, you can go in and then basically say like, overall in the saturation of that leather, you can go in and just desaturate it, as you can see here. And when you do that, you can clearly see how nice also the features and the options from that material, the details are coming out, right? Look at this, very, very nice to see. And as I said before, you can desaturate this to your likings. You can also crank up and change the hue and whatever. Again, you can make it a little bit more cream, and of course you can change then the hue in general, even if it's more decentralized, until you have something you like it. So of course, as I showed before, you can change, like always, of course, the tiling of the pattern. So let's say if you want to have this completely removed or you want to make this larger, you can do that. Another option I think I built into this shader as well is, of course, the intensity of the pattern you created, that you can change this as well. So you can see here it's pretty intense, but what if I would like to make this less intense? Or what if I would like to reverse it, inverse it, right? And make this even more intense. So then you also have this, can go in a negative way or all the other way back like this. And you can make all these adjustments. So in terms of, I would say, metal, you can go then in, or plastic, and say like, you know what, I want to try maybe here a plastic, very special one, as you can see on the armrest, or you want to have another one and just check out specific lines on that, right? Very interesting. Or you just want to have it classic, or you want to have a complete different pattern or material on it, like this one. Check this out. So the options in creating a lot of variations and options here is really, really intense. It's instant feedback, so to speak. And you can also, of course, say like, okay, maybe it is a metal piece, and just apply then, for instance here, gold. Okay, so this is just for demonstration. This is not something I would call this is a final design piece, but that's not basically the purpose of this video here. I think the purpose of this video is make sense to show you like how to utilize the power of real-time software to basically move much faster and quicker and see all these options. Now, what I also would like to show here is maybe under the fabrics, maybe I find something here that is a little bit more, fits better. I want to also show like what happens, of course, if you would like to create your own pattern. What happens if you say like, I have my own design ideas? Well, I also show you one of my tricks, what I use. I use also heavily AI, and it really doesn't matter. I can create an AI, I would say 50 times faster, any kind of pattern I would like to create, instead of, for example, using Illustrator. And of course, this is not like a lesson how to use also AI to create patterns or whatever, but I would like to show you how you can do this. So for instance here, this is so-called prompt. There is a pattern, this is tileable, and you see roses or flowers on a silk screen, and in Rococo, and you can also then specify, of course, colors, but your imagination, there is no finish line for this. Like whatever you would like to create, you can do this. And then, for instance, what I do, I show you here how you easily can create then your own material as well, and then use it also in the choice of your software. So for instance, this is another software package where you can now create those materials with your own patterns. And how this works is fairly simple. So basically, you drag and drop your pattern into the software, and then you use also the AI-powered image to material option. And then once this is done, it starts creating all the PBR-based basic material, material information you need for your material. So you can here see like the creation of the normal map, right? And of course, you have then here the options where you can go in and say like, I want to change the roughness of my material so it's more rough, or the metallic options and so on. You can change micro details, as you can see here from your fabric, which basically means, do you want to see more details? Do you want to see less details? As you can see, so it behaves more than a fabric. Do you want to go like have it more like stitches, like more rough fabric, or do you want to have it like more soft, you know? You have also the geometry equalizer where you can extrude the pattern stronger, and so on, right? So you have a lot of options and a lot of features where you can play with in a very quick way and create a material of your choice. So for instance here, I created the rose fabric here. Before I load this here real quick, with some settings where I was kind of like fairly happy. So once you have something like this where you are happy, you can also change the normal intensity. You can also change here, of course, like details, micro details, make that softer, make that harder. You can pick between large details and low details. But once you have this done and you have something you're happy with, you export this and you give it a name of your choice and export it. And then once this is done, you import that material into your fabric. So I call this rose. And then once you have your rose material, you can again basically specify all those things. But I just assign it here, and then you can see, whoa, that rose material from that pattern what we just created is really here. Now I wouldn't say that I would not use most likely this rose pattern for this economy seat here. Looks like a little bit like, I would say from the 70s maybe something. But it's fun to demonstrate and show like what opportunities you have. And then of course when you go closer to this material, it looks fairly good. And again, with all the material functions I created, you can then go in and you can change, of course, the tiling. So I go a little bit back further, and then you see like here the power of it, because you can make this, of course, like super small in the tiling, but you could also make it very, very large. You could also, of course, then change the rotation of it. So again, whatever you like. And you can change the hue and overall like all the saturation and the colors. And so there is absolutely no limitation. So whatever you like, you can do this. And you can see also with your own patterns and with your own materials, you can go in and do that. Now, on top of it, you can also create, of course, not just your own leather, but you can also create your own, you know, wool fabrics. And I show you here, for instance, another one. I actually, you know what, I show you live from the beginning how I create this, also very simple. So I start a new project and I don't save this here. And then I just load a simple leather material. And let me find this here real quick. I saved here somewhere the simple leather on my, yeah, here we go, on my computer. So I basically drag and drop a simple material onto my canvas, and you see here this is nothing else than a simple leather where you have already like some structure on top of this leather. And then I can change here my color and say I make this maybe more cream, because this is what I really like to do for the seat. You know, maybe it would be a classic cream, kind of like a sofa leather or whatever. But then it gets really interesting, because you have all different kinds of also possibilities to build quilt stitches. You can then say I want to change it from line to square to diamonds, and for instance I do here a diamond. And when you also look at the top stitch, you have then color options, so I can go in and can also create here my different stitching color options, right? Maybe I blend this in a little bit more so it's not as obvious, but for the demonstration, you know, that's it. So let's say we are happy with this, then okay, all I do is I say export and call this here my ladder diamond 002 maybe, and I export it. So here we go. You have to wait a little bit until the maps have been created, and that's it. Now I go into my ladder, and then I go to my folder where I have been exporting it. So I just have to find it here real quick. I saved it under patterns, pictures and patterns, and I called it ladder diamond 002. And I bring it into my ladder folder, import it, and then when I'm here, I have now also this ladder material available. And look at this. Here we go. I exchange it and assign it my seed. And again, if I still would like to change the tiling, and that's what I think is very, very important to provide this to any designer, is like inside of your real-time application, you as the designer, you want to have full control over that always, right? So again, you would like to change here the tiling, and then you go in, you want to change the pattern or the rotation, and you can do this. You want to change again like the color and the hue, and you can also do that and then make all the different changes you like to do. So for instance here, saturation or desaturate, make this more gray, and yeah, I have maybe here another option how I can do that. Now also the question usually comes, is it also possible once a 3D model was actually unwrapped, or you have a specific UV layout that determines how the pattern is projected on a 3D object as well? You always can change this as well. You can then go in and say like, okay, instead of having this, let's say horizontal, I want to have it also vertical. Then you can see you can rotate this. You can scale it. You have here all the different options you can imagine, and you can project it, as you can see, in real time to your seat as you please. How cool is that? And of course you can see here also the scaling. You can change that. So whatever you would like to change individually, also piece by piece, you can do that. So I would say this is basically pretty much the standard or the basics of understanding what needs to be done, or how you can really benefit from using this powerful tool and the powerful real-time technology to visualize and to create your design, your interior design. That's basically it. One more thing is, what I would like to show is, of course, also, as you can see, this is a so-called mock-up place stage, or I call it, it's a digital mock-up place, or your digital garage, where you have a very nice sliding setup where you can go around in 3D and see all the details, right? You can see really like the brushed materials, you can see the details of the carpet here, for example, and so on. But nevertheless, I know that it's also very important not just to have the seats isolated in, let's say, the first phase of your design choices. And it's also important to see then later on those specific seats, of course, maybe also in a different environment. So for that reason, what I usually do is I create, of course, different environments, and any environment can create it from exteriors and interiors. But to demonstrate this here as well, you can easily swap this out, turn off the environment number one, and go, for instance, here I created just roughly, of course, a cabin. And then you can also change, of course, the lighting, because you see then you have the lights that are coming down here in the economy class. But then there's also, for instance, a character, and you can also turn the characters off just to see like how would that feel or how would that look with that specific lighting or in that specific environment. But this is also just something, that you can swap out very easy. All those environments can be hyper optimized. Full airplane cabins can be built, completely built out, and then everything can be brought into the real-time tech in order to get all those things done. What else I would like to show is maybe I think this is most likely the most important features and parts. I think that's super important for every designer. But of course, furthermore, what is important is also like later on to create, for instance, really cool camera shots or still shots where you can pick cameras like this one where you have a depth of field, and then you can render still images straight out from the software for all kinds of marketing purposes. And furthermore, the CGI artists and the CGI department that has more the technical component actually, and oversees more the technical component as well. They know then also how to, basically really output, high resolution images for print, what you need to consider in order to really have like nice looking pictures, animation work, and all this kind of stuff can be done, camera settings, lighting settings, and so on, in order to, create teasers, trailers, still images, everything that helps to support selling, of course, the vision and the dream, and the cool design elements of that specific design. So you can also see here, of course, there are exposure settings that can be controlled, but I'm not going really into all the details here, how you can do this, and depth of field settings and everything, and what camera, because this is also, of course, the art of a digital photography, and this is then, so to speak, also the fine-tuning of the next level. But I also wanted to show that, and nevertheless, I hope it makes a little bit sense, and shows what can be done. Maybe last but not least, what I also would like to demonstrate is a cool option feature is to send an entire 3D experience to a client, and the client doesn't need the actual software, so the client basically can then execute an exe file, and when the client is pressing play, like here, you can even add music, audio, you can talk about the design ideas, you can also go through every little bolt and corner and talk about it. But the good news is also that the client itself can do it by himself too. That means you don't deliver just, a still image anymore if you would like to present to your client your design idea for the final, or even the development process and iterations. You can always send a 3D file and show it to your client and ask him like for feedback. It can be also used for internal reviews, markups, presentations, discussions, meetings, of course, where you just discuss those things with any other departments. And yeah, that's why I think this is so powerful. It's definitely, of course, requires then from the CGI department the pipeline building, the workflow building, setting up also, of course, the material library, supporting the designers with all the features and options that it's for a designer much more fun, but also, more the power of creativity. will be unleashed, so to speak, because as a designer, I can really go in and then focus on my materials. I can really focus on this beautiful work where you can then say, you know what, I can craft basically material patterns, and in a couple minutes later I can actually see it on my seat, and I get a much better feeling of it, like, am I going into the right direction, or is this something that just doesn't feel good, or that choice of that specific pattern, it will never fly like this, you know. So that is definitely a big change, and helps everybody to visualize and to see your design ideas much quicker, much faster. And I would also say you can visualize and see maybe design issues much quicker, or avoid even maybe problems, catch material problems much faster with this workflow, as you would probably do in an old-fashioned workflow where you don't utilize the power of real-time visualization. So that's about it. I hope that helps a little bit. Of course, if you do have any questions, please feel free to send me an email, send me a text message. You find all my contact data at my website, fedibull.com. And I hope that helps you. I hope also that you are also so excited as I am. And that being said, you find my more work from me at my little blog, which is called fedibull.com. So my name is Bernard Reader or Writer, aka fedibull.com. And yes, I would love to hear from you. That being said, thanks for watching. Happy designing and happy pixeling, and talk to you later. Take care. Bye bye.